I kind of do an update on where we stand with providing support within the legacy districts. The new DEs took their positions effective July 1. Kind of as Jeff noted, that's Chaz and Lee in the east, Barrett and Jensen in the north, John and RT for now in the south, and Derek and Rich in the west. Within our legacy districts, the volunteers continue to provide support. I think most notably, the commissioner team and the unit commissioners in supporting units and scouts and volunteers, and working to ensure each of our 4 new districts have an August roundtable kickoff. We also have membership teams working on fall membership in each of our combined new districts, and also program teams consisting of our legacy district volunteers starting to work on early fall programming. So the expectation is we're not going to lose anything in the transition as we move into the early fall. Our professional and volunteer staff continues to work that. Thank you all for helping make that transition work. It's very much appreciated and important work. Finally, I'd like to close my comments this evening with a comment that Scott Sorrells, our national commissioner, made in a Zoom meeting, I guess 2 or 3 months ago. We meet as a national council commissioner team once a month. And this was a comment that Scott made that I think has really now made its way into a letter. It's been posted a couple places. I know at least one place is Scouting Wire that many of you probably receive and may have seen this letter. But Scott was asked the question, what can I do for Scouting now? And his response was, go start a Cub Scout pack. And I won't read that letter this evening. If you don't find a copy of it, send me an email and I'll forward it, a reprint of it to you. But I think it really doesn't matter if you're a member of the commissioner team, the membership team, you're a Cub Scout volunteer, a Scouts BSA volunteer, a venturing volunteer, or a parent. We need help re-engaging our Cub Scout program. Our Cub Scouts, our packs, our leadership, really growing our Cub Scout program is the thing we can do the most right now. For the first time in a long time, our Cub Scout membership is actually less than our Scouts BSA membership. I don't think it's going to be that way for long. I think we're poised to make a comeback. The interest in scouting, in the activities and the program we provide is out there. There's a demand for that. But I think it's something that all of us can do to help a Cub Scout pack become re-engaged and our Cub Scout membership become re-engaged. So if you see that opportunity, jump in there and help make that happen. If you have questions or comments about, hey, what can I do? Let me know. Let your district commissioner know. Your district commissioner in any one of the legacy districts, as well as the new districts. But that's probably one of, if not the most important thing we can do this fall is to re-engage our Cub Scout program. Deanna, thanks. Those are my comments this evening, and we'll pick up questions later if we have any.
Okay, great. I just want to remind everybody, if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will try to answer those as we go along related to all these different topics that we're covering. I also want to just mention that you saw the recording message come on in the middle of Chris's presentation. Sorry about that, Chris. We thought we were recording, we were not recording. So we will make sure to capture just comments in one of the slides before we post it, so that everybody gets that report as well.
Well, I'm glad at least half of my comments got recorded.
we're doing our best here. Sometimes we run into little technical difficulties. Okay, so with that, we're going to move over to the topic of the bankruptcy and the national restructuring. And Chris, could you give us an update on what's happening in that area?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. Happy to. And my apologies, everybody. I'm not in uniform this evening. I'm on vacation, so I promised that I would jump on the call, and I wanted to honor that commitment to do this. So here's the good news. Apparently, I think we're all starting to see some light at the end of the tunnel. So I'll walk you a little bit through the process here real quickly, and I think that this is a very positive development we've had in the last couple of weeks. I think there is a chance, a very strong chance at this point, that there will be a settlement of the national restructuring, which, as all of you know and have heard over time, involves or will involve the council. First of all, I want to point out that the group, and we've talked about this group before, the ad hoc committee, and that's a legal term, and that means that basically the committee of sort of official people, who is organized by 8 different councils around the country, who has been sort of herding the cats with the local councils, has done an unbelievable job and has really been instrumental in getting both the plaintiffs, the national council, and all the local councils and the insurers on the same page. And they have helped drive us to what we think is a resolution on the case. We have an agreement reached, certainly in principle, with the plaintiffs. And there are 2 plaintiffs groups, as I've talked about before, the TCC and another one called Abused in Scouting. The TCC would prefer to see scouting decimated and take all our money and every single asset. And Abused in Scouting would prefer to settle the suit and happily Abused in Scouting. Abused in Scouting controls the most plaintiffs. So we've reached that agreement. That agreement lays out as follows. I'll describe it for you, and then I'll talk a little bit about how that involves us. There's going to be a contribution to what's called a settlement trust of about $250 million by the National Council. In addition, there is going to be insurance. We have a number of insurance carriers who will have to pay into the settlement trust. Those battles will continue to be fought with the insurance carriers, but we fully expect that the amounts paid into that trust by the insurance carriers will be somewhat in excess of at least $1 billion. In addition, and here's where it gets important for Simon Kenton, there's going to be a $600 million contribution from the local councils across the country. There's a very complicated, and I won't bore you with the details, formula on how the ad hoc committee arrived at suggested numbers for each council, but they did. And that $600 million settlement lays out like this. $500 million will come from direct support, meaning money, cash, property, however it works, coming in from the local councils into the bucket. And another $100 million is going to come out of basically a bridge note that is going to originate out of the pension fund that is paid into by all the councils to support the pensions of our scout executives, our district executives, and our scouting employees. Happily, because the market, now this is before Friday and today, but happily, because the market is doing so well, the pension fund was overfunded, meaning there was more money in there that was going to be needed to pay out the settlements for the pensions for the various scouting employees. That money, when it is in an overage perspective, is going to deposit some of itself into this a separate bucket for this bridge loan or bridge note. That is a non-recourse note. In other words, if the stock market does well and the pensions do well, that money will slide over into the settlement, but that money will not be recoverable after we get to about a 10-year period and it hasn't paid itself off, then that'll go away, and the plaintiffs just simply won't get their money. And I apologize, it's super complicated. It's even hard for people who do this kind of stuff every day to follow, but just wanted to be aware of how that's working. Now, in regards to Simon Kenton, this is the kind of the meat of the stuff for us. We have been asked to contribute at Simon Kenton $2,659,000, 871.50 cents. So 2,000,007 approximately coming in from the Simon Kenton Council. That has been our ask. That has been what we've been told we have to contribute to participate. I will tell you that because of the complicated formula, Our number actually is lower than we expected it to be based on the full formula, because we had some what are called some guardrails, because we had some liquidity issues. And I think that's important for everybody to understand. And really the gist of it is this: we probably could have been in a certain perspective to pay a lot more than we're paying, but 2.7 is what's been asked. July 8th, the board approved spending $2.7 million into the settlement trust from the Simon Kenton Council. And let me tell you how that's going to work. It is both a cash and property settlement. Nationally, not locally, but all told, all in for all the councils, it's supposed to be 60% cash, 40% property. Some councils, if they have heavy property, they can do that. If they have heavy cash, they can do that. Just at the end of the day, with every council buying in, we hope it'll be, or it has to be 60-40. What ours is going to likely look like, and we have a committee the board is appointed to study this and figure out how we're going to exactly do this. We believe it is doable. And I can tell you how it's going to look a little bit. We still need to kind of work out the final machinations, but we are going to contribute both cash and property. And it's the property that's difficult because we're trying to get values and things like that. We will likely contribute Chief Logan, and we will likely contribute Madison Lakes on the property side. The rest of the structure would be made up by cash. And we're working through how that would look. We're working through what the values on the properties are, and we're trying to get to some resolution with the plaintiffs groups on how we would value and how we can value the properties. If we place a property in trust for the settlement, we have to manage it, basically pay the light bill for 3 years until it's sold, and it would be listed immediately and then put up for sale. If we can sell the property, and here's the unusual thing about, for example, some of our properties that we might be contributing, if we can sell the property on our own before we get to the settlement closure date, we might be able to do that. Here's the downside, just so you all are aware of putting the properties in. The downside is we want to maximize our value. If we put a property in and that property sells for $1 million and we valued it at 500 million, we don't get the upside. That goes straight to the settlement trust. If we put a property in for $800,000, we think that's, everybody agrees that's the value, and it sells for $600,000, we don't take a hit. We don't have to come up with any additional money. So we want to make sure we're making the right decisions with the right values when we evaluate and appraise these properties and put them into the settlement trust. Like I said, we have a committee looking at this of the board. There are very carefully, we placed folks of different minds and strengths together on the committee in order to get the best survey and analysis done by our team. They'll come back to the board with a recommendation next month, and we will then, if the board approves, move forward with the structure of the settlement. I know that's a lot, and I apologize. There's a lot of detail here. Always happy to answer questions or take notes in the chat, and we'll get to them later. Or if anybody, like I said, and this offer is still continues, as it always does. If anybody has any concerns or issues or questions, they can feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to answer. So Deanna, that was.
Thanks, Chris. There is a question about, is there an effect on the chartered organizations as part of the tentative settlement?
Chris, you're muted.
Sorry, guys. I did have that in my notes and I didn't cover that. Let's talk a little bit real quick about what we get. So if we enter into the settlement trust, we participate at the 2.7 approximate million dollar participation level, like we've been asked, we will get what's called a channeling injunction. That channeling injunction will protect us from any lawsuits up till 2020 that have been filed. It means no one out there who has any claim can come after us, and that'll apply to the council. That will also, and this has been an important part of the settlement discussions by the ad hoc committee at the national level, that protection will also extend, we believe, to our chartered partners. So part of our participation, or part of the reason for our participation in the settlement trust, is not only to protect the council, but protect our honorable chartered partners who have been with us throughout these many long years.
Chris, I'm going to provide a little bit of an update
Yep.
to that. I've just late last week got an email from the BSA's in-house counsel, and it addresses the question. In part, the letter I received says In order to continue the momentum in our Chapter 11 case, the national organization and the local councils have agreed to the claimant's request to separate the BSA and local council contribution agreement from the issue of chartered organizations' contribution to the trust. Under the agreement with the claimant groups, we and they agreed to work in good faith on a process by which chartered organizations can participate in the releases and the channeling injunctions under the plan. The ad hoc committee continues to work on our behalf and on behalf of the charter organizations to negotiate that agreement.
Perfect. Thanks, Jeff.
Great. Any additional questions on this topic? So we'll continue to keep people informed as we move through the committee's work and make final decisions around our contributions to the settlement. All right, so let's move on to our final topic for the evening, which is camp master planning. And Jay's got some really cool stuff to share with us. So Jay, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. And yes, as everybody's known, we've been the committee has been working diligently for the past several months, and the past few months we've been working very closely, as we talked about last time, with the environmental design group, really taking our ideas and forming them into something cohesive, and developing a camp that based on the property we currently own down at Falling Rock, and that we're going to meet our needs as we laid out to them. So we do have some things. A few weeks ago we were able to take where they are in the progress and shared it with the executive committee. And I really want to take a few of these shots and share it with everybody this evening. But again, this has been a tremendous amount of work with the whole camp master planning committee, evaluating all sorts of different ideas and different thoughts, and walking the property and looking at how we can grow the program and have the program areas that make sense, and then camping areas that make sense, and also some additional facilities that we envision would be good for the council in the future, and helping us grow in the future. So that's what we'll go ahead and unveil what we have right now, Dan, if that's okay. So the first one, I know this is probably incredibly small for everybody's computer screen to see. And so, we will be getting these out in a different format for others. But again, this is our pass with having environment design group taking all our information and taking the existing property and start laying things out on it. So I'll kind of walk everybody through this. The center part of the picture, the center part of the map, is really the main part of camp. And as you continue to move around there, we have centered within the main part of camp is kind of where all the program areas are going to be. So kind of expanding what's there now and developing them a little deeper to offer some new facilities, but also use existing facilities where they make sense. The big red dot in the middle there, I'll call the dot because that's how it looks on my screen, is we're looking at pulling in centering the camp around a new dining hall and a major facility there. And we'll get to that in a little bit, but you can also see how we've looked at relocating the entry road to give it a little bit more experience entering the camp, as it winds around, and kind of getting it away into more of a camp woods feel instead of running into where it currently enters camp for those who have been out at Falling Rock. So if you can expand back out, Deanna, that'd be great. Go back to the other picture if you don't mind. So over to the left is the big piece. And for everybody that may know or may not know, that there's, a large piece of our property is owned there, which is currently not being utilized very well. It was utilized for ATV program, which just really hasn't taken off for us. So we've really pushed ourselves in limits there and said, how can we develop a complete shooting program over in that part of the property? And so, again, with EDG's experience, they've been able to develop a complete shooting program, all from, rifle, shotgun, archery, and, and really kind of opening it up to what we see as a potential future revenue opportunity for the council as a spot that can be, leased out to other organizations for shooting activities. So that was the big item that we put on the table, and asked them to really look at that and help us design something around that, and that using that area that's there to for that program area. So that's we can dive into that a little deeper. And as you go through the center picture again down to the middle, lower middle, is we're looking at expanding campsites. So we have campsites there already, we're looking at that's kind of being the main part of camp. And within that area, thanks for going to what we call the southeast campsites. You can see from the detail here, this really gives us an opportunity to expand this and turn into where we could have about 300 scouts there. So I know everybody talks about, okay, what happens if we have a larger camp? We'll get to that in a little bit here. But on these campsites, we've taken the approach of putting them kind of in pods, for lack of a better term. And so a pod can be used for a smaller troop, or several pods can be used as a larger troop. So they're modified to troop sizes and kind of work around a central theme of a toilet and shower house. So again, I know for many of you that know Falling Rock and Logan, we have one central shower house and main toilet facility, but the group really talked and went back and forth and said we think to start expanding the abilities with our membership, both male and female, and others, that to do a centralized shower house and toilet wasn't the best way to go, but keep those closer to the campsites and make those sizable to the troops that there, so they're easier to access and easier there. And then also during springtime or wintertime, we can close some of those off and take them offline and still have others that are online. So one of the big things we have pushed the committee push for, and the group push for, was to have that centralized water and wastewater system. So we are looking at expanding the waste treatment facility here for the new functions of this camp and the additional capacity we're looking for. So, but again, the big thing is really around the pod sort of scenario on the campsites. And again, these are pretty much in the location where existing campsites are right now, but trying to get some sort of maybe better access back there. And again, a lot of things they're talking about, you kind of see what might look like a road, but we all talked about, we don't want roads running through the camp. So that's going to be an access path. It might be gravel, it might be something else, but I don't want everybody to think that we're going to have a whole bunch of paved roads running throughout the camp. That's a big thing that we all talked about, that we did not want paved roads throughout the camp, but we do want to have access back to these sites for troops that want to bring trailers in and things like that for when they come to summer camp. So that was an important aspect of how we looked at developing this as we move forward. So if you want to flip to the next one. So this is a quick program overview of what we're trying to do at the dining hall, and where the evaluation of where it's located for those that have been out there. It's kind of at the top of the hill. So we're trying to use the grades within the existing property to allow us to have this sitting high on the camp and really overlooking the whole camp. So it becomes a central place for obviously the entrance to camp, and also for the main dining facility and other facilities that might have to go in there. Again, this is just an initial layout of how we're looking at laying out what we call, quote, an upper level, but the whole kitchen area and servery on one side, and then the dining hall and seating on the other side. Looking at potentially doing an outside sort of porte cochere or patio around the outside. So there might be dining and eating out there, flexibility of how we want to go about some things. And then obviously this would eventually contain the trading post. There's some other periphery meeting rooms in here, so it can be used for other activities besides just summer camp usage. So again, trying to continue to take the concept of that main centrally located dining hall as the main feature coming in the camp, and obviously where people would first see and enter in the camp and be checking in and checking their troops in, things like that. So again, for those who've been out there, the parking area is pretty much where it's kind of in a similar location where it is now, if we're not really looking at moving that. But putting the dining hall up in that top part of the hill. And so we do have other I don't know if you mind if you can jump back instead of forward a little bit. So on the small print, yep, sorry, that's a small, but we've evaluated the lakefront and looking at there's opportunity to give us a little more expansion to the lake and make that swimming area and utilization better. The existing dining hall, we're looking at potentially utilizing that and turning that into more, you see in the little dot up there, an aquatics area. So still looking at putting in a swimming pool, potentially to, maybe we'll be able to do some additional swimming type activities there, or if we can do a well that's deep enough, maybe some diving activities, but really expanding it. And then right below where the existing dining hall is, we've looked at putting in a cope course, along with a couple of zip lines from the top of the camp down to lower camp. So again, to provide some additional activities and additional excitement to the scouts that will come join us at summer camp. If you look at, to answer maybe a question that someone might have or might not have, up to the top right, where all the little circles are, we're pre-planning ahead of, that's where the opportunity exists to continue to add campsites as we need and as we grow. So again, you have the center of the camp becomes your program area, and peripheries surrounding the camp become all your campsite areas, overlooking some areas that might make some sense for everybody. The amphitheater is in the same place, but looking at opportunity to upgrade that somewhat and provide some, maybe redo the seating there to give some different levels of seatings, or at least clean it up a little bit. So again, take areas that make sense that we have and upgrade them, and to make them more pleasing for everybody. We've also, where all the existing lodges are currently, we evaluated those and looked at those and determined the best use for those going forward. And you can see them placed on the little dots across there across the campsite. So we did do a holistic view of the entire camp from top to bottom, and how to utilize, like I said, start with how to utilize existing structures where it makes sense, but then how do we upgrade and make the camp a better, more long-lasting experience for those coming in. So, okay, Dan, if you can flip to last, I think, sorry for making it flip around there. But this is a little more detail into the shooting complex. So you see, again, we took this on the, I remember my directional, I get directionally challenged on which way is north, south, east, west. But you see, we have put in a full rifle range, a full shotgun range, look at doing also the skeet range, and maybe, trap in there, and an archery range. So it all fits within this one area. So obviously you come to a summer camp and you can have several kids that want to earn all three of those merit badges and spend the whole day down here rotating their way around. But then, as we said, we looked at this too, the center pavilion there is a somewhat of an enclosed, but like a 3-season use that becomes an area for training and for other outside, other outside sources to use this and rent it out. So again, continue to potentially be a revenue generator for us going forward. And to help support that, you can see at the top there, we looked at putting in a couple lodges. So, even though we're currently set for a 3-season use, that's easy enough to in the future, potentially put some heaters in the shooting sports center. And this could also become a 4-season use piece of the property as we move forward. So you see a lot has gone into this. I know it's the first time for pretty much the majority of people on this call to see these, and quite a few people have spent their time and energy really evaluating this and really challenging our design firm and putting our thoughts and ideas on the table. But we don't want to say this is the absolute final outcome of this, but we will be looking to kind of reach out somewhat to take a little bit of feedback of how things are going, and that'll be coming in due time for everybody. I know a lot of questions are, okay, what's the next steps? And I've always been forthright and very candid with everybody here that we have probably gotten through the easiest part of our transition. Doing the plans and coming up with an idea what we want to build is the easiest part for us to go. I'll be candid, we are at the challenging part now, which is to start raising money. And there might be questions of why we haven't done that. I'll revert back to what Chris Miller was talking about. We had to get past what we're getting past right now for us to be able to go out and start raising money. But the lawsuit has not stopped this process from moving forward at all. As you can see through the process, that we're still on step to continue moving this forward. So then where we're currently at right now is really taking all this and now breaking it down into phases. I think we've all talked about this since we started this process, that building this new property out, this new camp is going to be a several-year process for us. We're currently looking at now is what's the right phase of how to break this down to provide some growth and some new things, but also spend the money that's available to us to put it towards some items there. So that's the phases we're in right now. It's really starting to look at how do we take this elephant and start eating it one piece at a time. There's certain things we feel we want to do first, but depending on how the money flows in, if somebody wants to sponsor a complete shooting sports ranges, we'll be happy to start building that first. And that's the next stage we're going to be at, is really getting these plans out and getting them out to our public domain. and really start looking at the fundraising, how to bring this to fruition for everybody. So.
Hey, Jay, there's a question on can full-size drawings be made available to make this easier to understand?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. We can put.
And
we can get those up.
we will post these slides on our Scouting Family Forum website, the overall layout slide is in here, and you can kind of zoom in on it or make it bigger or smaller to see that detail as well. So what other questions do you have?
Quiet group this evening.
Jay, is there any, I know that Otter Run is really, we don't own that, but is there anything planned for that?
We haven't been looking at anything at Otter Run, David. So, but obviously, like I said, yeah, it's a property we have and still using, but we didn't look at if we're upgrading anything out there. I saw a question come through about ADA access, and yes, that's one thing we have actually planned for. We do have a few of these campsites that we will make ADA accessible, including the platform tents. That was something that was key for the group, that we make sure that transpired.
A question from Kurt: how much bigger will the lake be in Lower Camp?
Not much. We do the one corner. I think, yeah, the one corner there. Deanna, we're going to expand that corner there, even because we are restricted by the floodplain and obviously the bluff of the current topography there. But we realize out there we do have ability to expand that one corner there to make that more into a, maybe that's where we end up with the big iceberg or something like that in that corner. So it gives us a little bit more, but not a whole lot. But it does allow us to put the swimming area to that end and keep whatever boating activity to the other side.
Jay, the other piece that we've talked about is dredging the lake to make it more useful, a little deeper,
Yeah.
and better for swimming and that kind of thing.
Okay, see a couple, I'm watching them come through, which is great. Thanks for the questions, everybody. Estimated time for the project. To manage everybody's expectations, I think we've talked about this from the beginning. This is probably a 5 or 6 year project to do every single piece we have on this. So this is not something that's going to happen over the summer, but obviously this becomes our main camp. So we want to be able to manage it and keep it operational while we're doing the additional projects. But that's all, again, like we talked about, that's going to go to the big piece of how we raise the funds to continue moving this forward. But reality is this, to do it over time and do it over phases is probably about a 5 to 6 year project. So, and improve communication. Yeah, improve communication and connectivity for program areas. I'm not sure the question there, but that is why we try to, as we're talking through the group and talking through our design partner, keeping them, the program areas within the central part of camp. Obviously down at the lakefront, that becomes a little more extended out. So I think probably one of the questions there is, between radios and how do we make sure people are connected to those programs. And we are evaluating and looking at how we can, we know that connectivity is important nowadays and how we can get connectivity across the campsite. So that's one of the things that's on the list to continue to evaluate. Elijah's asking about utilities. And yes, we have the one good thing about our design partner EDG is they are a civil engineering firm, so they are very well educated on how we can get power and water and sewer throughout the camp. I will say they have already done a preliminary study. It's a very, very messy map, and I'd be happy to show that to anybody that'd like to see it. But they have seen how they've already kind of mapped out how we can get the water through the camp, sanitary sewer through the camp down to the treatment plant, and then also power throughout the camp. So yeah, Diana's circling the place where the water treatment plant will eventually end up going. So
it's actually Phil that's running the slide.
Oh, thanks, Phil. Sorry, I wasn't sure who's circling, who's not.
We need to give him some credit.
All right, thanks, Phil.
No problem. That's easy.
So, utilities.
The question about renaming.
Yeah.
Yep. How will that be chosen?
And, I will say there is another committee that has been pulled together, what we call the Camp Culture Committee. And one of the things they've been evaluating is how to get all of Simon Kenton Council around this new camp. And they have evaluated and thought through, and they've mentioned that we may have to look at, the potential of doing a rename to incorporate the history of all the camps and everything. So nothing has been set in quote stone right now, but it's being evaluated by that group. And I think if the opportunity presents itself, we're going to get some more input on what that might mean going forward for this overall camp. So I think that's to get a name. It's not going to be done in a vacuum. It will be done with the input of several people throughout council and members and scouters.
Going back, there's a question related to the district realignment, and when will we know about the new district roundtable meetings?
All right, so the goal is to get to the point where our district roundtables are all on the same night, the first Thursday of the month. We're striving to make that happen, beginning with the August roundtable kickoff. I know a couple districts are still working through the logistics of trying to make that happen. North currently has theirs scheduled for that first Thursday, 7 o'clock, I believe, at Camp Lazarus. I know West and East are kind of working on putting that together. We expect those notices, those invitations to go out in the next few days, and they will go out to what has been the combined email lists from the legacy districts, as well as out on, kind of combined social media platforms for the new districts and the legacy districts as well. But at the moment, plan on the first Thursday of the month for roundtables.
And Chris, the districts are going through a renaming process right now as well, right?
That's right. And that will really be up to the new district committees when they become, I guess, fully operational on or shortly after August 1st. The word that's kind of working around at least a couple of our districts is contests to help name those districts, get scouts involved, units involved, volunteers involved that may be interested in coming up with those new district names. No expectation that they're going to be done by the alignment committee, and not really any expectation that they're going to be named by new district chairs and new district committees. That it will be a process that new district committee wants to use. Hopefully we'll come up with 4 new names other than east, north, south, and west.
Great. A couple of suggestions there from Jeff for naming our camp. We could all relate to Bridge Ices First or Slow on Curves. So love it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate the questions and participation. I want to thank our panelists and especially those of you that are on vacation or traveling for making the time to be here tonight. Thank you so much. Our next Scouting Family Forum will be on Monday, September 13th. Don't forget the meeting replays and the slides are going to be posted on our Scouting Family Forum website. We've also listed some upcoming events for you there. If you could help us promote those and make sure that everybody gets to experience the great things that our council offers, that would be awesome. With that, I will say thank you and good night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you. Good night.
Thank you.